In 2015, Americans drank roughly 6 billion gallons of beer. But as consumers in the free market, few may have considered how much that beer truly costs. Not the $10.49 you pay for a pack of cheap stuff, however. What is the cost of producing a single pint of quality beer? To answer this question, we took a look at Levante Brewing Company and its most popular offering, the Chief. Floridly styled as a balanced wallop of malt and citrus hops without finishing overly sweet or fruity, it's easy to see how this India Pale Ale has earned its place as Levante's bestseller. But before we go off on a tangent, let's look back at what it costs for Levante to make a pint of the Chief. To make a beer, Levante needs just 4 ingredients: water, grain, hops, and yeast. As the amount of these supplies used increases in step with how much beer Levante produces, these 4 ingredients are their basic variable costs. 90% of the Chief's final volume is simply water, and despite being so critical to the brewing process, the cost of water is actually the lowest of all the ingredients. To make 1,000 gallons, or one batch, of the Chief, Levante requires 1,500 gallons of water. Yet in the end, this costs Levante less than $26. But water without grain does not a beer make. Ground down and steeped in the boiling water, the malt releases sugars that are critical for beer's development. That 1,000-gallon batch of the Chief requires 2,100 pounds of high-quality malted barley to develop its signature taste. This literal ton of grain is bought for $6,000, comprising the king's share of the Chief's cost of production. The next ingredient we analyzed was hops, used to give beers their classic bitter flavor. A batch of the Chief requires 50 pounds of hops, which costs Levante another $1,000. After the hops comes fermentation, in which yeast breaks down the sugar from the malt and converts it into alcohol and carbon dioxide. Levante requires $800 worth of yeast to ferment 4 batches of the Chief. Therefore, a single batch would use $200 of yeast. Of course, each step of the brewing process requires human intervention, 128 man-hours to be specific. At an average of $14 per hour, Levante Brewing Company pays in the ballpark of $1,800 for labor. Finally, a facility in which to brew is necessary. Levante's current location costs $4,000 per month in rent, and roughly $700 per month in utilities. So when we take the costs of the full 1,000-gallon batch and divide it down to the cost per 16-ounce pint of beer, we come to the price of $1.09. That $1.09 is all it takes for Levante Brewing to elevate its craft. Thank you very much.
So what they do is they'll grind up the hop. You definitely want to smell it. So that's the hops that you can. Deer Creek Malt House is right down the street, 3 to 5 miles. They grow and malt. Most of their malt on premise here in Glen Mills, PA. So that whole process of actually, it's kind of cool.